let us begin. One assumes this begins with a cutscene.
Ethan Carter, I didn't know, but he knew who I was. When the police won't help you and the priests don't believe you, you call on Paul Prospero. You call on me. If you're a kid like Ethan, you're right. Plenty do. Ethan's letter started out just like any other fan mail, but soon there were mentions of things no little boy should know about. There are places that exist that very few people can see. Ethan could have drawn a map. I hadn't entered Red Creek Valley yet, but already I could feel its darkness reaching out for me. Finding Ethan Carter wasn't going to be as easy as knocking on his door. I was too late for that. To find Ethan, I had to figure out what this place was trying to hide from me.
All right. One assumes we're now in the game. There doesn't appear to be any UI of any description. There we go. Oh, that's fairly pretty, isn't it? The first thing I do in any game, I know it's sad, isn't it? I run up to the wall and check the texture resolution. It's like, it seems okay. Couple of invisible walls here and there, that's perhaps to be expected. There's also something on right now called camera smoothing, which gives, I suppose, a more smooth camera panning experience, although it does take away something of the inaccuracy. It's not the same as mouse acceleration. I have that on. You can turn it off, it's more of an option. And of course on the stream, bear in mind, we're streaming at 720p, I'm playing at 1080, there's going to be artifacts on the stream, so it's an approximation of what you'll actually see in the game itself. Oh, they did encourage us to have a look around, so hello. What on earth is all that about? Alright, let's hold the button and find out. It appears to be a thing. I don't think I learned anything from that. Oh, so it kind of, does it show just a fragment of it? Seems like that's the case. So that's what it used to be, and we know that that is now a trap. And one assumes we do not want to step in it. So I'm going to attempt to step in it. Which I cannot do. Okay. Fair enough. Could improve the texture resolution on this rock right here. Picky picky. You know how I get. GOG knows how I get as well. They didn't hire me as a marketer for games. Oh no. Absolutely not. More traps. Ah, okay, so it seems that by investigating I'm unlocking something of a picture of what's been going on. Like some kind of sensory jigsaw puzzle. For those wondering who developed this game, it's debut from the Astronauts, I believe it was one of the ex-head honchos of People Can Fly. Who, of course, you should be very much aware of if you like things that are awesome. Pretty damn good developer, frankly. Shouldn't even need to tell you what that's all about. Ooh, that is pretty gorgeous. I've got to admit, that is some nice looking scenery. Admittedly, of course, if most of your game consists of scenery, it's not that difficult to do that, but that is quite the thing. Performance seems okay too, from what I can tell, which is not bad for preview build. Occasional little frame drops here and there, but I am streaming, which does take a significant amount of processor power, so it is worth bearing that in mind. Alright, well, I'm going to explore around and try and find out what exactly that was all about, because there's clearly something going on here, I just don't know what it is. But yeah, it's a bit pretty, isn't it? And I give him credit for that. That said, if I want to be a little bit skeptical, which I am constantly, that's pretty much how I live my life, so was DRS there. It's reasonably easy to be pretty if you're not going to do much else. Although this game obviously has some elements of gameplay in it, and we're actually able to backtrack around this corner here. We came out of the train tunnel over there. I suppose if we hadn't wandered in this direction, we would have had no idea what was going on. And you can run in this game, which is lovely. Speed things up just a little bit. Although I imagine you cannot run off the side of cliffs. Field of view is currently 97. I could go higher. So, yes. Entirely reasonable. Defaults to a sane and sensible position. Just keep going backwards and then see if we run into anything. Looks probably like walls, but I am looking for... Hello! Okay, we did find something. Very nice. This is too scary 5me, no doubt. Okay, so if we put that together with the rest of the picture, what do we get? There is certainly something. Certainly something. So it looks like maybe 1 or 2 more elements and we can figure out the full picture of what exactly that was. Always like to test the borders and boundaries on levels like this. Obviously it's kind of covered in invisible walls. They're working on the collision apparently, according to the notes for the preview build. You can also crouch, so there may be even more exploration involving that as well. Alright, well that seems to be that area pretty much covered, so unless there was something else in the forest. Bearing in mind, by the way, this, again, is a very short preview build, so I'm taking my time to look around. Because apparently if you blitz through this preview build, it can actually be done in about 15 minutes, which I can't imagine would be too entertaining for you lot, as I'd like to find out everything I possibly can. Oh good, it marks on the map where that stuff is, which is nice. That means you're probably not going to end up retracing your steps too much. And that's a screen, not map. Okay. That's the viaduct right there. Let's head along this path over to the side. Resolution on the bridge closing font is sufficient. In fact, that's probably one of the best looking signs in a game I've ever seen. That always bothered me about there's so many video games that do things like signage and then you get up close to them and they're all bloody pixely. Like, come on, you expect me to get up close and read it, right? It's just laziness. That is a nice looking sign.
Red Creek Valley seemed like a quiet, ordinary place. I've learned 2 things in my life. No place is truly quiet, and nowhere is really ordinary. Ethan warned me about that. Warned me not to be fooled by what I saw here. He didn't need to worry. I'd worked dozens of cases, hundreds. This would be my last one.
So we got some supernatural supernatural elements of some description. I want to screenshot that and put it out as my bloody desktop. That's just lovely. Ugh. Too lovely. TotalBiscuit, how much are you being paid to play this game and talk good about it? 0 would be the answer to that. I would explain my sponsorship relationship with GOG, and if you think that I would sell out my reputation to do something like that over a couple of $1,000s, then you're out of your goddamn mind. But hey, people will always criticize you regardless of how transparent you are. Those people merely need to be ignored. Alright. Gonna head on over here, see what's going on. So we found, what, 3 or 4 elements? I'm still trying to figure out exactly what's going on. So far the only game mechanic that I've noticed is the ability to kind of investigate. There is an interact button, so I'm not 100% sure if there's an inventory or anything along those lines. If there is, it's not immediately obvious in the UI, which is deliberately minimalistic. There's gotta be something else around here somewhere. And so far I don't have a huge amount of information to go on as regards to what the story actually is. All I know is I found some very suspicious traps in the woods. I somehow have the supernatural ability to determine parts of what happened, one assumes, in the past. Hello. Alright. Ah, so that's a bit of an investigation idea. So was someone tied to the train tracks? And there seems to be some kind of sick nonsense going on. Oh, blood over here. Alright. There's a blood trail down that direction. Should I go back and have a look at that train car? Let's certainly backtrack a little bit. I mean, that seemed like a fairly significant set piece. But I don't think there's any way to get up on it, so I'm not sure if it's relevant. It doesn't appear to be. Not from what I can tell, anyway. Oh, hello! There is something. Alright, so we did miss something on the way. Gotta be a little bit more careful. See, it has gameplay mechanics. There's a train. Turn on the train. There's probably no power for the bloody thing. Well, no functional train simulator, at least not yet anyway. I wonder if there is a power element to that, or if you just get in there and mess around with it for no reason. Hard to say. At least we can safely say that it is now both a train simulator and a walking simulator. Ooh, I missed that completely. Alright. I would say I like the... Yes, absolutely we should be cranking. Let's crank that, Soldier Boy, and so forth. Or can I? I assume I can. I believe that... What was the interact button? I mean, you'd think it would be mouse controlled. Or do I need... Oh, I need a crank to do it. I was going to say, I can't turn that thing, can I? Alright. I understand, but where is the crank? That is a good question. Didn't fall down there, did it? I do kind of like the way that the game presents information. It's somewhat stylized. It's almost like it's a stream of consciousness. I believe it's supposed to represent kind of the thoughts coming from the player character. Let's go have a look around here, because this was one of the turns we could have taken. Check there's nothing out of the ordinary. Well, we'll follow the blood trail and see what's going on with that. Severed legs! Alright, yep, that would be problematic, I'd imagine. So my fine detective mind indicates the following. Someone got run over by a bloody train. Also, there's traps. Yes, I'd say blood from legs is probably a reasonable bit of deducement, thank you. Alright, let's see what else we can find out. Okay, so that was part of it as well. So, whatever the fifth part of the whole vision thing was, I obviously missed it in the forest. We could keep going. Unless, of course, the rest of it's actually down here. Which is also possible. Let's keep heading in this direction and see what we can find. There do appear to be some minor puzzle elements involved, although... It's asking about the crankshaft there, but we don't have one, so... I'm not 100% sure what's going on with that. It's probably lying around somewhere. Alright, we'll just keep heading up in this direction. See what there is to be found. I am wondering if not finding that fifth trap or whatever is going to put me at a significant disadvantage. And also, is there any mechanic attached to collecting all of the visions, or is it just merely a storytelling method? I don't really know. Hard to say. Certainly a lot to explore. The question is there anything in any of it? Hello? What is that? It's a rock. Okay, then. Thanks for the information, game. Rock? Yes, of course. I would love to rock. Okay, so for those of us about to rock, we salute you. We evidently cannot interact with the rock. But it is questioning whether or not we should rock. I'll have a quick look around here as well. I think we have discovered, incidentally, why we run sub-chat in the main channel. If you do wish to avoid the spam in the chat, I currently don't have moderator rights, and I'm actually not really reading it. But if you wish to avoid that, head over to twitch.tv/TotalBiscuit. We have the stream hosted there as well, and that's all properly moderated. Unfortunately, it seems GOG didn't bother to send any staff to moderate the chat, which apparently was a huge mistake, but there you go. Easy enough to ignore, however. Well, this is a lot of exploring, trying to find stuff. That's probably the reason I don't play point and clicks all that much. I'm absolutely terrible at that. I'll check the beach again. It seems unlikely that they'd put a beach location in the game without... well, I don't even know if you call it a beach, really. It's the edge of the water and not have something lying around the place. Maybe I just need to be a little bit more attentive. Well, on the plus side, this is a really good advertisement for my $5 a month subscription. Thanks for that, guys. I appreciate it. Hello. So we did miss something. That's oh, so yeah, that looks like the crank, doesn't it? That didn't pop up in the first place. Is it because I didn't look in that particular direction, or does the game just after a while say, "Hey, yeah, you missed this, you dummy"? There we go. All right, so there is an inventory system. We have now discovered this. Let's go crank it up then. See if we can get the train running. So I assume there's also something that allows you to interact with the rock. As to what that is, I don't know. Better double check the signals, make sure there's nothing out of the ordinary here. Seems like a bit of a weird place to put a crossing, I've got to admit. Unless there was a rockfall here quite recently, I don't really see why you'd have a crossing when this leads to nowhere. It's a bit odd. I wonder if there's any meaning behind it, or if it's just merely an oversight. Alright. Fix the crank. There we go. Spin the crank. Press X to crank. Okay, the cranking has occurred. So I assume the thing is now working. Yep. So don't worry. Those disappointed by the lack of train simulator, it is, in fact, simulating the train. And I just turned it off again, didn't I? Don't trust me with heavy machinery. Especially not on the painkillers I'm on. Alright. I'm giving you a greater experience of the crank simulation. Here we go. So if we go in this general direction, are we able to smash through that stuff? That's... I'm not entirely certain. Non-working dials on this train, 0 out of 10. Would not simulate. Okay, so that's about as far as you can go here, so let's head in the other direction. So I suppose we can keep going and probably run over the severed leg. No squelching sound as we do that. Is there even a... Well, there's got to be some purpose behind this. Well, we have the rock there, but I don't know if the train's really going to do much in that respect. Probably not an awful lot. Wonder what the purpose behind the train is, then. There's got to be some purpose to it, other than them just moving it around. That's kind of the end of the line there, and I can't push it past the other way. No sun. Uh-huh. Which would indicate that the... Oh, hello. Okay. Yeah. That would indicate that the rail car was actually over this position. So one assumes that this is relevant to probably unlock a part of the vision, I would think. Can I pick up the canister? No, I cannot. Okay. So if I move the rail car over that position, then I should be able to find out something. To approximate exactly where it is. Might have to turn the thing off as well. Okay, we need to go a bit further than that. All right. What from that point, though? There was an audio cue which indicated that something happened, but I'm not sure what that might be. Turn the thing off. Yep, same thing again. You probably were able to hear that audio cue, so something certainly happened. I wonder if we want to get and have another look at the legs. I was asking, the game is not out yet now. This is a fairly short preview build we're doing here. Yeah, the crank was lit up because it's something we can interact with. We've already done that. That would turn the... It's only because I turned the train car off. It's more of a case of I'm wondering whether or not I need to keep moving the train car. I believe I put it in the right position. I could be completely wrong about that. What exactly does that noise indicate? Hard to say. I'll try and touch the body again. It's going to give me that small piece of the vision there. Oh, actually, that gave me a hell of a lot more of the vision. Okay. Oh, so because I set up the scene in a different way, it gave me a lot more of this sort of vision, but it's obviously not the complete amount yet. So I wonder exactly how I get the rest of it. Yeah, reading chat is basically impossible because it's nothing but spam, so there's no point in really telling me that. Just gonna quickly, if you don't mind, switch over to the chat on my channel because it might be a bit more useful. Alright, probably have a little bit more luck with this. Okay, cool. So I'm reading my sub chat at the moment, which should make things a little bit easier. I am notoriously terrible when it comes to puzzle games, and this is basically a detective investigation game, so I'm attempting to... Hello. What the hell was that? Apparently it was nothing in particular. It seems to be about recreating the scene, so let's start the thing again and run over that location. As that apparently was where the thing was in the first place. I had a look at the rock earlier. The question marks indicate, from what I can tell at any rate, that you need to interact with it in some way. You see? So it'll do that if you move in, and it'll say, well, okay, something about the rock. It did the same thing with the crank. I had to find the crank. I have a feeling now that if I continue to drive the train over the position where the legs were, then I'll continue to unlock information. So let's give that a bash and see what happens. Okay, let's move it to where the severed legs were. Just gotta be a little bit careful with that. I mean, it seems fairly obvious what happened, although the rope being up there doesn't make a huge amount of sense. If someone was tied down and then run over with a car going in this direction, then the rope shouldn't actually be up there, it should be down. There was a mention of head trauma, wasn't there? Which, of course, you know, was probably something that would happen if you clobbered someone with a rock, one would think. So we can give that a shot. Moving over the legs doesn't seem to make a huge deal of difference. So where would the rock be? Well, If we got run over here and then kind of clobbered around there and crawled all the way down. If we're looking for a rock, finding one on the beach is probably going to be a bit tricky. There's, I imagine, going to be quite a few rocks. It seems the rock was taken from there all the way down there. I wonder if his head got bashed in after he crawled there or before. I imagine after. It was probably around his body somewhere. So if we follow the theory of what we think happened, this guy was tied to the train tracks and then run over by the rail cart, which severed his legs. He then attempted to crawl to safety with his legs severed, as you can see right here. And he either died... Well, it's died like, by the looks of it, combination of blood loss and head trauma. He was clearly beaten over the top of the head, probably by the assailant who wanted to stop him from getting away, which means that the murder weapon should be around here somewhere, and it's probably stained with blood. There was some scratchings around the crank, but I would imagine that probably had more to do with the fact that it was recently used and is, on a line like this, probably not used all that often. So it will be a bit more obvious, and maybe the crank was stiff, requiring a little bit more physical force because the train wasn't used all that often. So I think that explains the scratching better than him being beaten over the head with a crank. There was also no blood on the crank, so that can't be the case. Plus, if you think about the game mechanics, the chances are that if the crank is placed in the train itself, it probably isn't an individual item that you can pick up in your inventory anymore, ergo it wouldn't be that. Which is kind of cheating, because I pretty much just metagamed it. I'm probably wrong, who knows? I mean, this seems like a pretty perfect place to hide a rock, doesn't it? On a beach full of rocks. Now, someone's suggesting in the chat, which might be right, that the words align to where you can find something. So it's actually reminds me a little bit of the sword mechanic in Shadow of the Colossus. So, if we head around in that general direction, I have a feeling that I actually have to go back up the other way. This area is probably blocked off. Wonder who composed the music for this? It's really quite the thing. You probably can't hear a huge amount of it because I talk a lot, but we need to go back to that area, and then we can go and have a look around and see if we can find that rock anywhere. Okay, so here it is. Yeah, I did notice that things, like, they seem to focus a bit. So if I look in that direction, it's all over the place. But if I look in this direction... Ah. That looks like it gives me a vision of where that rock actually is. Okay. Well, I mean, that's just cheating. So, it's just to the side of that, which is right next to the rail car. Okay. Oh yeah, those wondering, this is something of a first-person mystery. Right next to the rail car, which would be here. There we go. We have successfully found the rock, which was clearly the murder weapon, and very carelessly discarded. Why on earth would you leave the rock there? You've got a perfectly good lake that you could toss it into, and no one would be any the wiser. Unless, of course, you happen to be a supernatural detective, which, again, is cheating. Sweet. So we found the rock. So let's head back to there and see if we can reconstruct the scene using dark magics, I assume. Of some sort. There, the rock has been fixed. Which has what effect exactly? Oh, if I go back to the corpse now, I probably have more information about the scene, don't I? So it'll probably give me a full vision. We're getting more of it. Still not all of it, though. Let's pop the train... Yeah, let's pop the train back to where it was. Because now that I know how that mechanic actually works, it seems like putting the train back there is going to give me more information. There we go. Now I understand how that works. So yeah, there's the blood on the front. He was clearly hit with it. And there's the crank. So if we move it back, then we should be able to get the last piece of information, I would think. Although I still think that gasoline seems relevant. Yeah, I like the way the game presents information now that I've figured out how it actually does it. It's stylized, but not to excess. It's probably a stream issue. It feels pretty smooth here. The frame rate seems to be pretty much on 60, but the stream's more like 30 and probably dropping frames from time to time, so... Alright, put the rail car back about here. There we go. And now we can do the same thing with the rail car. There we go. And I fucked the vision up. Damn. How did I do that? Well, now I can't do a bloody thing. Let's try that again. It did say if I clicked too many times on the vision, it would mess it up in the preview build, and they're looking to fix that. So I guess I clicked too many times. Damn. Well, I suppose that probably gave me info, so let's head back to the body then. Oh, I mean, it's not that the train is powered by the crank. The crank starts the generator in the train. It's probably powered in the way that you would expect by gasoline, I would think. Yeah, you've just got to be careful with how many times you click. Alright, where'd he go? He's over here, isn't he? Poor fella. See if we can get any more information. Still no more information. No, the train is not in the right spot. That is right. It's a good job this is a short preview build, because I take fucking ages to get anything done. I'll bump it forward a little bit, and then we'll try to bring up the vision again, because I managed to mess it up the last time. Is this right? Okay, now let's go try the body again. I think that's my understanding of how it works. I could be wrong. Yep, there it is. There you go. Okay, so you reconstruct the scene and then it gives you the full vision of what happened. The sound cue appears, as someone pointed out in the chat, to be an indication that it's done. And now I can actually look around the full scene. There's the fellow with the crank. And he then went down here and tossed it. And yet didn't toss the murder weapon in a safe place. He's not very smart, is he? Let us follow this. Whoa, there was a kid involved. That's pretty grim. Okay. What else happened? Kid crying over that. And this is where he was tied to the train tracks. Whoa! Hang on a minute. Well, so that guy wasn't the victim? That guy was actually the perpetrator? Well, there's a twist for you. So the guy who got his head bashed in seemed like he was actually rescued by the fellow in the hat. So why on earth was he trying to kill him? Let's go a bit further down here. As we know he was down here near the beach, don't we? He had to be to put the crank there, so perhaps there's more information down here. Oh, there's a box by it? Was it? Yeah, was it the kid responsible for bashing his head in, I wonder? Seems like the old guy ran him over, severed his legs. He's saying that there was a box somewhere? I didn't actually see that. Oh, there's one over there. Oh, yes, of course, there would be one by... So who got the rock, is the question. Did the kid get the rock? No, he did. Ah, cool. Now, all right. So, yes, it is a video game. It's actually... So you've got to pick up the chronology of the scene. So he wouldn't pick up the rock first. Absolutely not. So what happened first, I would imagine, is that the kid was tagged... Well, the kid was tied to the train tracks, presumably by the perpetrator. So this is what happened first. Yeah? This I'm not sure about, because that's the same guy, right? Maybe this was second then. Was this first? Because the kid's still alive at the end of this, and this is the guy that dies. It's, of course, possible that this wasn't the first thing there. I mean, you think this would be 3... Trying to think about the right order. So let's think about it logically. So he's got no reason to have the... This is where he has the rock. Ergo, this is clearly after this, right? So the reason for him to have the rock is to try and stop him. The only reason you have to... Okay, I think... So this would be... He ties him to the tracks. He is then on his way down to the train. He maybe collapses in grief or psychosis for a second. Unless he's stumbling there. What? But when, you know, when did the legs happen then? Because I mean, he still has his legs at this point. Is this after he gets hit? Possibly. This is obviously 1. So maybe that is, in that case, 4. That would be 2. This would be 3. So if we follow that this is him stumbling around, bleeding a lot, then this would be 5. This is somehow after he loses his legs. And this would be the last one. There we go.
Listen to me. We can destroy it. I know how.
You can't destroy it, Ethan. You can't destroy time. And that's what he is. He is forever.
Gail, honey, I wish there was another way.
So maybe it's not what we thought.
Travis, tell me where Ethan is, now.
I'm giving the sleeper what he wants. What all of us want. Look, old man, you need to go home.
Ah.
No.
Ethan, run, goddammit. Go! Get out of here! Travis, close your eyes.
There's the answer with the crank. I'm not sure how the kid freed himself, but there's some supernatural crap going on by the looks of it, so that probably had something to do with it. Oh me, oh my. A mystery indeed. The old man did rescue the kid. Sort of. Oh, well, he didn't rescue the kid per se. He killed the person. Somehow the guy got loose. We don't know how that happened. Now everything is blue for some reason. Oh, there's something else to discover. So yeah, we're following Ethan, of course. I still want to... There you go.
Stay away!
Ethan, I'm sick too. I can feel the sleeper in my head.
Then fight it! I have to destroy the room!
Corvus, I'm sorry. Ethan.
Oh no.
I can't let you do that.
He wasn't the good guy at all! Twists upon twists upon twists.
Whatever had turned Ethan's family against him, the grandfather was trying to resist. Age helps against those things that feed on hate. Not because of wisdom or experience. Because the old are tired. Their hate is less useful.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's a supernatural murder mystery detective story, essentially. I'm kind of curious now about the trap that I missed in the woods, also why the trap was even there, and wondering if there's, like, anything else that I could discover there. So I'm actually going to head back in that direction. I would imagine after discovering that, if I keep moving, then it's probably going to end the preview demo. So I want to go and have a look and see what was back in that forest and see maybe if I missed what the final trap was. I'm going to go and have a look for it. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. So, it's out. People keep bringing up the whole because I don't know, maybe they're trying to troll me or whatever. It's like, oh, so is it a game, TotalBiscuit? Well, obviously, yes. And you guys say, well, where's the game over screen? You don't need one. You know, the implied failure state is if I didn't reconstruct the scene that way, I wouldn't unlock the next part of the story. So it is a reinterpretation of, I suppose, classic point and clicks because what you're talking about is first-person exploration combined with item-based puzzles. And a bit of scene reconstruction here and there, which is... I'm trying to... What would I compare it to? The closest I can come up with is maybe a little bit of Remember Me in there, in the memory reconstruction sections, but... Also, of course, you know, Batman did the whole scene reconstruction thing as well in Arkham Origins. There's maybe a slight bit of Ghost Trick in there, too. Only a slight bit. I'm walking so slow because I'm not holding the run button. There is actually a run button. Duke Nukem Forever. Okay. Well, a little bit of David Cage tossing there for good measure, which is not necessarily a bad thing. No quick time events from what it was that. Unless you count the press X to crank. Yeah, it does remind me a little bit of what I thought Murdered would be, and it ended up, well, not. I didn't play a huge amount of that, it just came around at the wrong time. If you want to know about Murdered, you want to ask the missus. Not like that, but I believe she actually finished Murdered, I didn't. And obviously, like, thematically, it's definitely a little bit Alan Wake. But I am very interested in trying to find that last trap that we discovered. And now that I sort of to some degree understand the mechanics a little bit better. And of course, what is it showing me? Really? Is this a clue to where the rest of the stuff is? And all I see right now are trees and stuff on the ground, which is obviously not hugely useful. We must find more of it. It seems like there's probably just one more trap that I missed, which is going to unveil some sort of information. Couldn't tell you exactly. what that is or where it is. It's a beautiful game, though. It genuinely is pretty damn gorgeous. It shows the same thing regardless of which trap, by the looks of it. Seems like it was a bit of a more open vista. Yeah, there's still a part missing, I imagine, before I can actually unveil the full vision. So, let's head right back to where we started, shall we? Wonder what happens if I try and go through this way. It's probably just blocked off. Oh! Okay, maybe it's not. Wonder what happens if I go all the way over here. I'm curious. You can't fall into the trap now. I imagine you probably can't do much. This is the intro sequence and... Is there something at the end? I'm intrigued to know. I'm just kind of curious. Hang on a minute. You sneaky devils. I'm pretty sure it just looped me around, didn't it? Uh-huh. Yeah. Thought so. Yeah, it's very clever. Okay. Yeah, so we had all these traps were reasonably close together. We had this one, and then we had that one. And then there was a one over, I think, to the right side where we went for a little bit of exploration. There was that bear trap right there. They all show the same... The three traps that I found gave me those three kind of slots of the vision. And I'm just now looking for the fourth one. Well, if you're going to do an invisible wall, you might as well do the whole loop around thing. I suppose it fits in with the paranormal theme of the game, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot of exploration involved in it, so you can throw the term walking simulator around, and I think it's a good term to use, because I don't think it's necessarily a negative. I know some people use it that way, but ultimately, what that connotation means to you is very much in the eye of the beholder. There's a lot of walking and exploration involved in it, but it's there for a reason more than simple storytelling. There are mechanical reasons to wander around, because of course you need to find items in order to make certain things happen. It seems like the whole trap thing is entirely optional, because I could have very easily missed all of those traps, and it seems like it almost wouldn't have made a difference. So I would think that this is probably a little bit of optional backstory that I can get if I find everything. I could, of course, be entirely mistaken there, but I haven't tried to get to the end of the demo yet, so... I really do not know. I wonder if there's any sort of visual cue that would help me find these traps, or whether or not it's simply bumbling around the forest trying to find them. Because they all sort of spring out at you. So perhaps if I'm a little bit more observant. Which, of course, is the problem. Spooky hiking simulator. I love it. That needs to be on the box. That's some high-definition mold you have there. Because we had this trap right here that popped up at the end. There wasn't really... There was like a few twigs on the ground, but there doesn't appear to be anything that indicated it was there, other than it being simply a part of the sort of maze-like geometry of the level. So, you lot can help me be my eyes. If you see anything out of the ordinary as I wander around this bloody forest, that's assuming, by the way, that there is actually another trap and it's not just messing me around, then do let me know. Maybe it's up. Maybe I need to be looking in trees. It seems like all the traps were in the forested area. Because we were looking around for these earlier, and then we ran onto the viaduct. Ask the dev. He's probably not going to tell me a damn thing. Although, if the dev is watching this, which I have no doubt that he probably is, he's most likely tearing his hair out that I was so bloody slow to solve everything. It's like, yeah, you could blitz through this in 15 minutes. You don't seem to fully understand just how stupid I am. This area right here seems promising. Well, I mean, there was that one trap there. You'd think maybe there'd be something on the footpath? Or something that swung out, maybe? So we had this area here that's all blocked off. There were the traps over there. Hello! Here it is! Got it! Minor jump scares. Oh, there's another one somewhere! Bloody hell. There's one more by the looks of it. Yeah, for those who do not know, by the way, People Can Fly were the Painkiller developers. This is a bit of a departure, somewhat, from that. And there's the last one. There it is. Yeah, wandered off to the right-hand side. Okay, let's see what this is, then. And now we have a vision. Or I just teleported. What the bloody... How mysterious. That's some high-definition scribble you have there. I can actually read that. No, I think I can read that without having to actually bring up the rest of the text. I'll read it for you. It's by Ethan Carter, as it turns out. It's called Sap. An old man came to the forest every day to drink sap from the trees. To get there, the old man had to step around many dangerous traps. The villagers believed this old man would have hidden a jade amulet in the forest, but the old man wanted the villagers to believe this because then they would search the forest for treasures and not drink his sap. One cool fall night, someone set fire to the forest, and the fire spread to the village. The old man escaped the fire by covering himself in sap. When he returned to the village, he found all the villagers' bones. The old man sat down and cried, then found more sap to drink. What a dick.
Ethan, I told you, you can't be here.
But Gramp, I wrote something for you.
That's real nice. Thank you. Just leave it. I'll read it later.
Me oh my. Whoa. That is grim. Very grim. Well, there you go. I'm sure you can... I think you can read that yourself, frankly. Gail Carter, so the mother, by the sounds of it, or the grandmother, was pronounced dead. Husband Edwin, one assumes that's the guy that bashed the other guy's head in. Evidently has a drinking problem. He's talking about drinking sap. Yeah, I imagine that he's referring to the grandfather being an alcoholic. Is there anything else in this area? I guess we are probably about done with it. I don't think... Can we go any further down here? No. Oh, I suppose we can just explore the area, see if there's anything else lying around. That might just be it, actually, come to think of it. That probably is. I'm fairly sure this will just lead me back to the place that I was in the first place. So, yeah, it was an optional bit of investigation for backstory. Alright. Well, we will advance, and most likely, I believe this will probably end the game. At least the preview build, anyway. Yep, skeletons went. The game is very spooky, no doubt. Yeah, there was that other area. That's what we're heading in the general direction of now. But yeah, I mean, you could completely miss all of that. And most likely continue with the game. Although, the investigation is obviously mandatory. What? I missed something? Such as what? What did I miss? There's more? Really? Okay, tell me where. I will investigate. I'll try and find out as much as I can in this preview build. So, what was I missing over here? A mass grave? How did I miss that one? I miss plenty of things in games. I'm very inattentive. This is probably why I'm awful at games like this. I was standing in it. I don't see anything there. Those aren't bones, they're just a fire. Oh, the mass grave disappeared after we read the paper. It was where you teleported in. Okay. Alright. Alright then. Well, in that case, I'm going to head across the viaduct to the area that we didn't look at. Yeah, I didn't notice the skeletons and the skulls, honestly. I was probably reading chat at the time. It does make it a little bit difficult. I looked at the back of the newspaper. It was something irrelevant from what I could tell. Yeah, I read the back of it. It was about something else entirely. Although, again, it might have something to do with the story, and I haven't connected the dots yet. Yes, viaduct, aka train bridge. Bridge for trains. A little bit of frame rate stutter here and there, but just bear in mind, again, preview build also streaming, so that's going to have a frame rate impact. The back of the note was just a drawing, actually. Alright, well, let's head in this direction. I need to find out who composed the music, because it's quite the thing. Sure as a forest. Be attentive and don't mess up the video game. Oh, that's a nice vista. I don't think there's any gameplay reason for it, but it sure looks cool. This is definitely something to add to my soundtrack collection, I think. And I think you know my opinions on games like this. They're generally not for me because I'm an idiot. And I tend to get very easily frustrated. That's why I don't play point and clicks. But that's a personal problem, as I've said many times before. I think there's a very clear difference between something like this and a very non-interactive sort of exploration experience, of which there are some. Now, this very clearly has defined puzzle elements and exploration and detective work involved in it. And the interesting thing, I suppose, about detective mechanics is that a lot of what you do in the game to advance isn't a strict mechanic. It's not like, hit this guy in the head to continue. It's more a case of, discover this, which will direct you to then do that. Now, it reminds me a little bit of Ace Attorney, strangely enough. weird as that sounds. There's definitely value to be found in that. The question is whether or not the game stops you from proceeding until you solve it, or whether or not it simply says, oh, well, just interpret this however you want and just keep walking. That's the difference for me between what a video game is and what an interactive experience is. One of them says you can fail, one of them says you can't. Yeah, I'm just kind of combing the area to see if there's anything else, because of course there was that giant bit of backstory right there that we just found as a result of exploring the area that we could have... I imagine, frankly, if I wasn't on stream and just playing this for my own personal amusement, I would probably miss that entirely. I wonder if there's anything else. There might be. Maybe a whole bunch of stuff that I missed. You know, when it comes to loot, it's strange. Like, when I think about exploration, I think about games with dungeons and loot, and where I'll deliberately go off the beaten track to try and find every single last piece of loot. But when it comes to story, I generally will not do that. Like, I didn't go off the beaten track looking for everything in BioShock, all the audio logs and things like that. But I did go off the beaten track looking for items when I was short on them. There came a point... Oh, it's an old train station. So I guess we have an explanation of why this train line's here in the first place. I've probably missed something. It's likely. I will freely admit to that. Poorly textured junction box, 0 out of 10. Would not look at again. Fixed it! Look at this! Look at this! Fix it! Up the texture resolution on that junction box there. You had a nice sign earlier, and now I'm disappointed by your blurry sign. I suppose that a bunch of game developers breathe a sigh of relief that most people looking at their video games don't try and do stuff like that.
Trains have been through here for a long time. That was part of a pattern. Large pieces of this country were thrown away, doomed to become, and then remain, the worst versions of themselves. Beneath all that rot, dark things grow.
Interesting. Almost thought the tree was a person there. A little bit paranoid about that. Huh. There's a dam. Interesting. Well, now we come to a crossroads. The bridge, I suppose. Probably towards the village. And that is probably the end of the preview build. Either that or it's a loading screen. I'm not sure. There it is, folks. So there's a preview build. That is the Vanishing of Ethan Carter, which will be available in a few days on GOG as well as Steam platforms. Don't really have... I mean, I haven't played enough of it to do any kind of real formal assessment as of yet. I'll tell you what I liked and I didn't like. I very much like the idea of visualizing a crime scene. I dug that a great deal in Arkham Origins. I liked the elements that it had in Remember Me with the memory remixing, as well as they actually do that in Phoenix Wright as well, where you have to sort of reimagine a crime scene in certain ways. I think that's a very interesting way of doing it, and of course dabbling it in there with a little bit of a supernatural element is pretty helpful to help spice up the theme a little bit. It looks visually gorgeous, there's no doubt about that. It's a very, very good looking game indeed. For the most part, high texture resolution across the board, and the performance seems to be pretty solid. I'll probably play it. I'll most likely have my wife along to help me not miss things, because I imagine it is the sort of game where I get super frustrated because I'm very inattentive, so I end up missing obvious stuff. I mean, it's essentially the evolution of point and clicks, isn't it? You know, it is a first-person exploration and murder mystery game with a supernatural element to it. Yeah, I was impressed by what I saw, honestly. As usual, you should bear in mind that the reason I'm doing this stream is it is part of a sponsorship agreement with Axiom Esports. And they actually have various streamers. You probably noticed if you're on the GOG channel, there are various streamers that do stream on the GOG channel. They're trying to build up their live content. So always bear that in mind when you hear my opinion that even though it's not directly sponsoring me, it is sponsoring my esports team. I was not paid to do this stream. It was part of a monthly obligation to do with the esports team and paying for the advertisement of, obviously, of GOG. This was not developed by CD Projekt and has no real formal ties to GOG in and of itself, and of course the game is also available on Steam anyway. The developer of the game, who I have not spoken to at any point, goes by the name of the Astronauts. And a couple of ex-People Can Fly folks from the Painkiller days. But there you go. Cool. Well, I'll come back to this once it's out, and I'll play a bit more of it, and then I can give sort of my final conclusions on it. Now, it is a short preview build, so it could very well go off the rails later on. Who knows? Yeah. I mean, think about Fahrenheit, for instance. Oh, God, there's a game that went to hell in the second half, didn't it? So impressive for a while, and then went absolutely bonkers. But it seems it's built on a solid foundation. Just enough mechanics to make it an actual video game. I do love the reconstruction part. I hope they do a lot more of that. The whole picking the, sorting out the timeline and chronology. That's a pretty compelling form of logic puzzle that I can dig. And it does very much make you feel like you're playing a detective story of some sort. So that was the bit, I think, that stood out to me the most. I thought that was a really cool idea and a good visualization of the notion of investigating a crime, even if you're doing that in something of a supernatural manner. Alright, there we go, folks. My name's TotalBiscuit. Thank you very much for watching. Big thanks, of course, to GOG for hosting this stream, providing with the preview build of Ethan Carter. The game is out in a few days, and I'll most likely revisit it at some point to give you a proper assessment on the channel. And also do things like take a greater look at the technical aspects of it. Don't really like to take too many looks at the technical aspects while I'm streaming, because streaming can have some fairly severe effects on things like frame rate and all sorts of things like that. Also, one point, by the way, just before we go, this is maybe information for the developer and also for you as well. I found that before my computer was having some real problems actually clicking on the options menu. It seems that there are some bugs in relation to HID-compliant interface devices. I had to uninstall both of the HID-compliant game controllers in order to make the menus work properly. It's almost like the game thought that I had a controller plugged in, even if I didn't. I've actually experienced that on a number of games, but I would imagine that that's something you're probably going to have a look at, because I've heard of other people having similar issues. So if you use something like a 360 controller and the HID-compliant drivers are interfering with it, then you can't click on the options menu and everything goes ballistic. So just worth bearing in mind. All right, folks, there you go. Thank you very much for watching, and if you missed any of the stream, of course, you can watch it on the VOD on twitch.tv/GOG.com, and I will see you next time. Good